Welcome back to our Lift Like a Girl series. My name is Hannah. I am a competitive powerlifter, a personal trainer, and the co-owner of Mean Training. And in this series, I'm teaching all of you girlies how to lift like a girl. As a competitive powerlifter, I have a lot of experience in the big three lifts, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. And today's video is gonna be all about my personal favorite lift, the barbell bench press. The barbell bench press is my favorite lift for a few reasons, mostly because I started out not really liking it and not really knowing what I was doing. But over the years of working on it, of really tinkering and adjusting my form, I've come to love it, and I hope that you do too. The barbell bench press is also a lift that I find for a lot of women is very intimidating. It's something that in the past you only saw gym bros doing. You see people screaming and grunting and throwing around a bunch of weight. And it can be really intimidating to walk into a gym and to walk into the bench press section. So today, I want to share all of my best tips with you on how to not only bench safely and stay injury-free, but also to see some serious gains in your barbell bench press. So like I mentioned, I am a competitive powerlifter. So I bench press in a very specific way with a very specific setup. If you've been in the gym for any amount of time, you've probably seen a lot of people doing a barbell bench press in a lot of different ways. We have our standard, more chest focused, anterior focused bench press that is gonna be really focusing mostly on just our chest and our shoulders. And then we also have a more tricep dominant bench press where that's gonna be more of a close grip. And then we have the powerlifting barbell bench press, which is what I'm most familiar with. And that's gonna really be activating a lot more of your posterior, specifically your lats. I'm gonna use this example today because this is the only way that I bench press. It's the best way that I know how to do it, especially if you are wanting to see serious strength gains and to stay injury-free. A lot of times people get injured doing barbell bench press because they're over accentuating their front part of their body. And these muscles are a lot smaller and a lot weaker than our back muscles are, than our lats, our glutes, using our entire body to bench versus just making it a chest and a shoulder focused movement. So this is the reason why I prioritize the powerlifting barbell bench press, not only for competition, but also just because I think it's the best way to do it. So when we start with our barbell bench press, the first thing we're going to talk about is the setup. The setup is critical. It is the most important part of your bench press, and this is where a lot of people need to do a lot of tinkering, a lot of adjusting. You need to try different ways and see what feels good for your body, but there are a few different fundamentals that we want to be focusing on. So first things first, height of the rack. This is going to be very important because especially if you're someone that's lifting on your own in the gym, maybe you don't have a spot, maybe you don't have someone to hand off to you, this is going to be super critical. Even if you do have a spot, you still want to make sure that your rack height is set up correctly. A lot of times, unfortunately, in commercial gyms, if you go to just a standard rack, they only have 3 or 4 different notches for you to set up your barbell bench press. So you're not able to have a lot of wiggle room. If you're somewhere in between, it's really hard because you're either gonna be super shrugging to get the bar off of the rack, or it's gonna be way too close to you and you're gonna be doing like a half rep to get it unracked. So if possible, I recommend trying to find a rack that is super adjustable. This one is great because it has a bunch of small holes so that you can really individually tailor it to your own setup, to your own height, and you can incrementally move it versus taking these huge big jumps. So that's the first thing. We always want to make sure we're set up at the right rack height. A good rack height should mean that you can get wedged into that bar and you can feel really tight and really secure, and then all you have to do is just straighten out your elbows and bring it out. You're not having to shrug the bar off of the rack, you're not having to lift here, or you're not having to do like a whole half rep just to get it from here to get your arms locked out. So we want to be somewhere in the middle. That's going to be the first thing. The second thing is going to be probably controversial. I'm probably going to get some hate in the comments about this, but I don't really care. The arch. Why do we arch? Why is an arch important? I think everyone has seen those videos of really extreme cases where someone's doing like an exorcist arch and they're doing like a really crazy exaggerated arch. And a lot of that is hyperextension and mobility in their back. Some people just have crazy mobility, crazy ability to bridge and to get their spine into weird positions. But that's actually not the reason why we arch. The reason why we arch is because we're creating a shelf and stability between our shoulders and our glutes, and we're compacting those two areas together and driving them into the bench, which is going to give us way more stabilization than just floating on top of the bench. If we're just lying on the bench passively, we don't have any of that stability to be able to push into that and to use that to our advantage. So when we create the arch, we shove our glutes and our shoulders and we try and wedge those together. That's actually what we're using to create the arch. We're not even thinking about hyperextending the back. There will be some natural curvature happening through the spine, but what I always tell people is start first with the glutes and then the scapular retraction and try and get those two things together. And then over time, the more mobility work you do, the more comfortable you'll feel getting into that position. But it should always be coming from the glutes and the shoulders. It should never be spine first. So that's one thing that's really, really important for the arch. The other thing is it helps a lot with leg drive. It allows us to be able to use the entire bottom half of our body, which has huge, really strong muscles. So when we do a flat bench, a lot of times people just kind of passively, again, are balancing on the bench. They have their feet just kind of there. They're not really doing anything. And so everything is anterior focused. Everything that's working is just this upper body. Versus when we're in arch, we're able to squeeze the glutes, we're able to wedge those shoulders in, and then we screw those feet into the ground and we have leg drive. And that's what's gonna give us power and really see that strength start to increase. When it comes to arching, there is better ways to do it and there are worse ways to do it. But if you stick with those two fundamentals of why we arch, that's what's gonna make a big difference. So let's put this into practice, what we just talked about with the setup, with the arch, using all of those muscles to get ourselves into position for the barbell bench press. First things first, we're gonna sit on our bench and we wanna make sure our bench is set up in a good position. We don't want it to be too far back or too far forward. We want it to be kind of just underneath so that we can be nose to eye level with the bar. So we're gonna lay on our bench. First thing I'm gonna do is get my scaps retracted and get my shoulders and my traps activated, and I'm gonna push myself up as high as I can onto my traps. I like to do this by grabbing onto the side of the rack, and then I push myself up, I lift my glutes, I do a glute bridge, and I get my body up as high as possible onto my traps while I push into that rack, which is going to force my scaps to squeeze together. And I'm trying to get as tight in this position as possible. Once I'm here, once my traps are fully in contact with the bench, I kind of walk my feet in and come up onto my heels. Once I'm here, I'm gonna lift one hand, place my finger in my position on the bar. I like to use the lines, so you can do you can do ring finger on the line, you can do on the inside, on the outside, whatever feels comfortable for you. But I'm gonna start here with my ring finger right on that line. I push into that side and I get a really good grip on it. Then I push into the other side and get a really good grip on this. Notice I'm still up on my heels, my butt is still off of the bench, but once I have the bar in my hands, I start pushing into the bar. So I'm trying to build up tension into that bar. I'm gonna hold this position with my upper body as I slowly lower the glutes down to the bench. So I'm just gonna let my butt come down and I'm still maintaining the same tension in the upper body. Once I'm here, one foot's gonna go down to the ground, other foot's gonna go down to the ground, and I'm going to wedge my feet into the ground. So I'm short, this bench is tall, my feet don't fully touch the ground, but in competition they would, and I would be able to screw my heels into the ground. A cue I like to use is trying to squeeze the bench between my thighs, and that helps to activate my glutes and activate my legs so that everything is super, super tight. Once we're here, we're gonna take a big breath into our stomach, fill up our stomach with air, and we're gonna unrack that bar and bring it out right above the chest. From here, I take another big breath in, I turn my elbows in, take a big breath, pull the bar down to my chest, and then press all the way up. Another big breath, and press. There are a ton of things that we could and I would love to talk about in this video about the barbell bench press. However, that video would probably be an hour long and I don't know if anyone wants to watch a video that long. But if you do have specific questions about your barbell bench press, please leave them in the comments below. And I do work with people one-on-one, in person and online for personal training. You will work directly with me. You're not gonna get paired with some AI robot. It's me writing the programs, reviewing the form videos, giving you any form feedback or cues. And this is where we can really get nitty gritty with breaking down your form, breaking down the things that you need to work on specifically, because everyone has different tics, everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And the only way that you can do that is through working with a very highly personalized program. So if you're interested in that, please head over to the link in our bio, www.itsmean.com. Go ahead and submit a form and just put a note that you want to work specifically with me. If you do want to work on anything for competition, if you're going to be competing in your first powerlifting meet, or if you're already a competitive powerlifter, I also do powerlifting coaching as well. So please feel free to hit me up and we can work on all of the things together. Thank you so much for watching this video, and don't forget to be kind and train mean.